Hey guys, today we are going to be talking about how finding the right doctor when you have a kid on the spectrum can be so important. I know it's important for all parents to find a doctor that you feel like is a good fit for your family, and I think that is true, but especially when you have a kid who has autism. That became really true for us. We found when Maggie was little. Now, in our diagnosis story, I talked about how the doctor, the resident, who basically she didn't diagnose Maggie, but she came in and she spent 45 minutes in the room with us, and she basically said, after 45 minutes with Maggie, she said, I am 100% certain that she is on the autism spectrum. She gave us all that information. She got Maggie referred to go in for autism testing, and she made that all happen. And she was our doctor for like over another year. And then she completed her residency and she went down from Michigan to Florida to open her own practice. And we were so sad. We were so sad to lose her because she was so good. She was so incredible with Maggie. And she listened and didn't just disregard everything as like autism. We didn't realize yet that that was going to be a sizable problem in our future. That for a lot of visits that was going to be a thing. Because number one, what we were going to find in the near future was going to be that, number one, when Maggie's sick, she doesn't necessarily act sick when she goes to the doctor's office because of the stress. So after her favorite doctor left, we kept going to the same clinic and would see whatever doctor was on call there. And at that point, it was that spring, she had like 2 months of fevers, and basically she would have like a fever of like 103, 104 for a couple of days, and we would take her to the doctor, and then it would go away. And then she would have like a low fever for a few days, and then it would spike back up. It was the series of high and low fevers that lasted for April and May. I mean, it lasted for about 2 months. And they would say it was an ear infection, and then she'd have antibiotics, and it would go and come back and go and come back. It was just this process. But during all of this, we were having a really hard time keeping her hydrated. And she was going like days without us being able to get any water into her at all. And I'm calling the doctor's office saying that she hasn't gone to the bathroom in 24 hours. And they told us to bring her in at that point, to bring her into the doctor's office. And we bring her in, and she gets in there. And I mean, she's basically at home, just been laying on the floor, refusing to drink, refusing to eat, refusing popsicles, anything, any of the tricks, any of the dehydration tricks. Nothing will work. No juice, no Pedialyte, no popsicles. We bring her in, and she's so lethargic. She hasn't gone to the bathroom in, as I said, 24 hours. And she gets into the doctor's office, and she's so stressed out by being in the doctor's office that when the doctor comes in, she jumps up, and she is bouncing off the walls the entire time we're there. Like just totally bouncing off the walls, laughing maniacally, completely out of control. She's like 4 at this point. And the resident comes in and is like, this child isn't lethargic. She wouldn't be acting like this if she was dehydrated. She's obviously not dehydrated, because if she was dehydrated, she wouldn't be running back and forth through the room giggling. Take her home. And I was like trying to explain, like, no. It was just like the stress. And ultimately, with that time, we ended up taking her to the ER, where they gave her some super shot of some super antibiotic that ultimately ended that like 2-month fever. So basically we got through that. We went to that office a few times. We had like, I remember one time we were waiting for like an hour and a half in a room with her freaking out. And I let her play with her mermaid doll in the sink. And the resident that day came in and scolded me for letting her play in the sink with her doll. I mean, keeping her from melting down for like an hour and a half. That was like the only thing that would calm her down. And like, then didn't know what I was trying to explain her therapies, because we need like referrals from them for therapies. He didn't know what occupational therapy was. This was like at a pediatric clinic. And then another time, like, she was just going back and forth across the room waiting for the doctor, because it would be again like an hour and a half wait. And a nurse came in and yelled at me for not keeping her from like walking back and forth across the room, because she was working in the office next door and she could hear her pacing back and forth across the room. Not like yelling, nothing like that, pacing. And that was the last time. That was the end for me. That was like general, like, not knowing what OT was, and not pretty much everything being put off to, well, not being put off to autism, but like not being able to recognize it when she was actually sick, how sick she was. Like, oh, this child has not gone to the bathroom at all in 24 hours, has not peed in 24 hours, and it's like she can't be dehydrated because she's still able to run around the room because she's a superhuman strength, basically. That was kind of the beginning of our challenges of like finding a doctor's office. So we moved to a different doctor's office that was where we've had a lot better luck. We've had really, really good luck. I think the challenge still has been at various places, because we've had a huge amount of doctors, and we've been really, really happy with our pediatricians. The challenge is always still like making sure things don't get put off to like, when you see anybody for a concern, it's a really fine line between whether or not something else is wrong or whether or not it's just going to be autism, because it's such a big thing. Like with Tessie, whether or not she was going to be diagnosed with central apnea because of all of the delays and stuff in the beginning, and her central apnea was part of it, or whether or not it was just going to kind of fall under her developmental delay and be pushed aside. With Maggie, a lot of stuff in the beginning was just kind of, it seemed like things just kind of got pushed under autism a lot of the time. It would just kind of be like, we had concerns and it would all just kind of be autism, and we'd be like, okay, well, we're worried because one pupil is teeny, teeny, tiny and the other pupil is gigantic, and I don't think that's just autism. And everyone would be like, not really believing you. Not being believed has been another huge theme for us until I finally got a picture of that. That took a long time to get a picture. It happened a lot with her, and we finally got a picture of it, and then stuff happens. But I think for us, just definitely one of the really important things that we learned after that, after the beginning, when I was just kind of naive and thought that any doctor's office would be fine, because I don't know, now you think autism is such a common thing, I kind of just thought we would be okay anywhere. And so finding a doctor that's familiar with autism and that's familiar with kids with developmental delays is really, really important. And there's like three different doctors in our practice that I always try to get. Like, all of the doctors are good, but there's three specific doctors that I know are going to be really good with Tessie and Maggie. And I totally, when I call, I'm like, I'll be like, can we get an appointment? Oh, who's on this morning? And then I'll totally try to be like, oh, who's on this afternoon? Oh, who's over at their other office across town? Who's on this morning at the office across town? Who's on this afternoon? Until I get like, there's very few doctors that I actually avoid. Their doctors are all pretty good, and they're doctors that I would like totally take my other kids to. It's just that there's like 2 or 3 particular ones that are really, really good with our kids that have autism that I want like to take those kids to. It's not like they're perfectly fine doctors. It's just like, yeah, I'm definitely pickier with Maggie because Maggie is so hard it's so hard to get her through a doctor's appointment as it is, that, oh, someone's awake. That, number one, having a doctor that understands that not everything is just going to be autism, and it's not going to keep everything into that when there's something else that's going on. When, like, she has one pupil that's blown, that's not going to be like, oh, autism. Like, no. Like, oh my gosh, no. Please send her to a neurologist. And that's also gonna, like, not totally freak her out with an exam, because that happens too. Like, she's not comfortable in doctors' offices, really. And so knowing which doctors are actually, there's a huge variety between how well it's going to go in the office. And so finding a doctor that interacts well with her is super important too. And so, yeah, that is probably the biggest thing, is finding a doctor that clicks, that gets autism and gets developmental delays, but also that just is able to interact well with your child also. I mean, sometimes it is just going to be bad. We definitely have that, even with, like, the doctor that's, like, the really good doctor that all the parents around here, that all the parents who have children with autism want their kid to get into. Sometimes we have rough appointments with her, even with Maggie. But I mean, it's never going to be perfect all the time. Doctor's appointments are rough. They just are. It's a different place, and she knows, and it's stressful. I mean, it is what it is. But finding a place that understands autism better can make for a better experience over where we were in the beginning, where it was just kind of like I was constantly being scolded and she was constantly being scolded, and yeah, I can't believe we stayed there as long as we did stay there. I wouldn't know. I was just kind of new to this whole thing and didn't really know what I was doing. Again, why I'm making these videos. What these 4 years have taught me. What I've learned in these past 4 years. If you have a child with autism and you don't feel comfortable with their doctor, I would definitely suggest, like, talking to other parents. I mean, if there's local groups, that is one thing that Facebook is awesome about, is that there do tend to be local groups, and sometimes local groups of special needs parents. Ask for recommendations, see what other people say, because I can guarantee if I asked, I would expect to get the names of the doctors that, or at least I would expect to see a lot the names of the doctors that are the ones that I try to get Maggie in to see. Because, yeah, those are the doctors that I have seen recommended repeatedly by parents who are on the spectrum after we finally figured it out on our own. Thank goodness we finally figured it out on our own. So yeah, ask advice of other parents, of therapists, social workers, whoever. They're people who tend to know really well. Go to somebody who is good with kids on the spectrum and has a good understanding of kids who are on the spectrum, and that can make a world of difference at your appointments. Anyways, that is all for today, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Bye. You are awake now, huh, Miss Tessie?